welcome. This is the REI Rocks review. Angel, Swallow, you can say hi, right?
Yeah. So hey guys, before I forget, I want to make sure that we highlight our sponsor. Sponsor Cloud has joined with us. We are super excited. They're going to be sponsoring the live feeds on Fridays. They're sponsoring the podcast and they're sponsoring the summits. And if you are looking for a place to be your one-stop shop, Sponsor Cloud is it. You've got Syndication Pro, you've got your sponsor docs, you've got like capital raising, a portal over there for that. I mean, it's all in one place. And excuse me, it is truly amazing. And so I hope you check it out. It's sponsorcloud.io and it's awesome. And thank you to all the Sponsor Cloud guys. We really look forward to being able to promote y'all for all of our events and lives and meetups and everything we're doing.
I'm definitely a fan. And just so that you know what's going on, this is the REI Rocks review, which is where we review the summit sessions that we do. We do a summit twice a year. We just finished one last weekend, and there's still another day or two left in the free access. But on these REI Rocks review, we go through the sessions and we give you a chance to see what's in there. Angel, do you want to say a thing or two about the subscription and what we're up to?
I absolutely can. So with the subscription, it's under $20 a month. And now that everything is uploaded from the last summit, it is over 400 hours of content. And I've talked to some people that are other programs, and I think all coaching programs are pretty good. You're going to find some really great mentors out there, but you're not going to find anything for less than $20 a month. And I have been told by several friends that there is massive content in the subscription, and there are times when I feel like they're getting more from that subscription. That is from my friends. That is not from me. I believe coaching is the way to go. But if you're going to get more content for less than $20 a month, then by all means, I'm going to support that.
And you've been a college teacher for almost 20 years. Yeah. And so me, I started teaching when I was a teenager. So we have the ability to pick good coaches because we could tell, oh, this person is talented at expressing themselves. They're very articulate. They can get, very subtle concepts out there pretty easily. So it's very important. But at the same time, one thing with my coaching background, the technical background in the coaching sector of real estate, I realized that there are a lot of people involved in this, that they're not motivated to be teachers. They're not motivated to be coaches. They're motivated for the dollar signs that are at the end of that rainbow. And it's a little bit, it bugs me a little bit. But the thing that's awesome about these summit sessions is because they aren't just coaches. They're not just giving you the 30,000 foot view. They're talking to you as a peer in the sponsorship operation, commercial real estate acquisition and operation in general. So that way, even if you're just starting, these sessions always have something for you. And by the end, because both of you will kind of get ants in your pants about going over the fundamentals, you'll end up getting into something where even people who are more advanced will actually be thinking about and discussing. So today's session is going to be our friend Sanja's presentation. Do you want to say a thing or two about that while I get it queued up?
I absolutely can. So Sandy and I were talking and we were like, hey, what are we going to do? Because that's one of the cool things about our summit is it's not scripted. It's not specific. It's not something we chose months ago. It's real time. And so we talked about, like, she was like, well, what's the biggest issue you're having right now? I'm like, oh my God, expenses. She's like, then let's talk about expenses. So this is real life. What's going on in operators' lives right now while they're operating properties. And that's one of the most amazing things about this summit is that we're talking about real life things. We're talking about things that we're dealing with right now. And one of the other attendees told me, he was like, a lot of the things we go to, it's super high level. And y'all got really into the weeds. You really got into the details and gave us actionable steps and ideas. And they were ever grateful for that. So I think that's just one of the things that kind of sets us apart with the REI Rocks, really the whole platform.
Yep, definitely. So I'll start sharing the screen, and it's going to be that one. And here we go. Now, one thing that might not be obvious when you first start watching is we watch these at 1.5 times speed. And there's a good reason for that. It's because a lot of this content is pre-recorded on the subscription site. And if you're really going to get the maximum benefit of it, you might as well play with the speed controls. I personally do 2x speed exclusively for everything. And so do not adjust your television set as if that's a thing, but it actually is going faster, and we're just going to pause it whenever there's something important to add. So let's get started with Sanja.
Hey guys, it's Angel, and you're here for the Spring REI Rock Summit. And we're going to be talking to Sandy Shashadri, and you are going to have your mind absolutely blown, because right now some of the stuff that we're up against are, expenses that are going through the roof. We're trying to figure out additional income streams. We're trying to figure out how to stay where we need to stay. We need to keep our NOI up. We need to keep our profitability up. There's so many things going on, and it's just the economic environment is so volatile and really unforgiving right now. And I mean that for everybody, whether you're an owner operator or whether you're a resident. Things are just going crazy. Our disposable income is tanking. And so people are having a really hard time keeping up, whether that's resident side or your owner operator side. So you want to really be on the lookout for ways to fix that problem. And Sandia is one of the best experts I know that really can do that in a property and make sure that you are like eking out every single penny. I follow you and I copy as much as I can from you. So I'm super excited for this conversation, but I'm gonna let you kind of intro yourself and give us some background.
Thank you so much for having me here, Angel. You've been running such a great summit now for 3 years, so congratulations on doing things that all of us want to do, but you're the one who actually steps in there and does it. You've done an amazing job in Wichita. Slow and steady is the way to go. Some people just chase after deals for that acquisition fee or to have a certain number of tours or dollars in their resume and get into deals that are now in trouble because of bridge loans. Some of them don't have any kind of a rate cap in them, which is dangerous. Or they get into loans assuming rent bumps that are unrealistic for that area. They believe that sometimes if you do the interiors, like a palace, putting 10, 15K into the interior, that people will just be able to pay it. And they forget the important factor, which is the affordability, right? So if your median household income in that place is only $36,000, you want to charge $1,500 for your rent, that's not going to work, because 1,500 times 12 is 18,000. You need a 2.5 to 3 times that. So you need a median income closer to 50, right? 54K and up to be able to afford that. So let's talk about some of the specific things you could do if you are stuck in a deal, right? So the first thing I would do is realistically look at the money that is coming into your deal, so your income that you are generating, and the mortgage you've got to pay, and all your other operating expenses. Are you staying afloat or are you drowning? Be realistic. Every month, what is your net cash? Is it negative? If it is negative, is it because of the capital expenses for which you have a fund to fund it? Or is it negative by the time you pay the mortgage, right? Your NOI is not sufficient to cover the mortgage. That's the problem. So the first thing you've got to do is realistically look at, am I at a negative 20K every month? How long can I stay afloat? No, I can't stay afloat 3 more months. Okay, then what can I do today, right? So then dig into your operating expenses. Where can you cut people? Talk to your property management company, or if it's you, see if you can make do with less personnel, right? Can you share personnel across multiple properties and we charge half their time? Where are your biggest operating expenses going? What are you paying for marketing? Do you have an occupancy issue? If you don't have an occupancy issue and you're getting people through referrals, stop paying all those marketing bills. Why are you paying for all the different websites? I don't want to call out anybody in particular, but why are you paying marketing expenses if your occupancy is high to begin with? Where are your last 10 leads of new, good, qualified tenants coming from? And does that correlate to where your marketing dollars are being spent? Review all of your existing contracts. Do you really need to be paying $150 a month for a copy machine, which looks like a monster in your leasing office? Or do you just want to go buy a couple of $200 printers for your leasing and your property management and get rid of that contract? That's just an example. Review every contract that you have. But another big picture item that might be worth spending time on is your loan itself. What are the fine little details in your loan agreements? Is it worth paying a good lawyer their hourly wage, as high as it might be, to just review your loan documents right now and give you a summary of where is wiggle room and where there isn't? What are your options right now? Are you required to buy an interest rate cap reserve? What are your choices? How far ahead can they insist that you buy that, right? So have a lawyer review that. Maybe you have a lawyer friend who might be slightly less expensive, but really dig into that loan agreement. That could be a savior. Another one is, what are you doing in terms of your interior upgrades? Do you really have to do a $10,000 upgrade and get a $100 rent bump? Does that even make sense? Why can't you focus more on retention if they are good paying tenants, but they just cannot afford your rent bump? Maybe you compromise and you don't quibble over the last $50. You accept it because 50 times 12, you're not.
She went a little bit quiet there for a second with the word bump. And of course, like it's like details. You can tell Sanja is an engineer. there's just no question about it. But she's talking about the rent bump, and I thought that word just kind of disappeared in that it's not so much that the residents can't afford the rent as it stands, but if it's bumped up, then it'll get out of reach.
Well, and that was something we were talking about too. Is just like before we started recording, it was like, can we just do blanket? You can't really do those blanket bumps. What else are we doing? And she and I talked about this other times too, about different places where you can eke out 5, 10, 15 bucks here and there, that is less of a burden across the board, and it still gets you to where you need to get.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yep, I definitely love that. And so I love listening to people like Sandhya get into this topic, though, just because most people, they'll try and dummy it down. They won't include all those extra parts here. And it just, it bleeds experience and just knowledge about how to run these things like a tight ship. And it's not just like, oh, well, what do we do? I don't know. Figure out something. That's not Sandhya. So let's continue.
Not at all.
$600, whereas for a basic make ready, you're at least going to spend $3,000. The cost of the turn, the cost of the tenant moving out and moving in a new residence, all of that is going to cost you more. Focus on renewals and retention of your existing residents, right? They really are your customers. Go review your rent roll, look at all the good paying residents, see how much of a gap is their current rent versus the pro forma rent you want to get to your market rent, and say, okay, what is your acceptable price at which every one of these unit turns you'll have to spend at least $3,000 versus let me settle for a slightly lower rent just to keep those doors occupied without having to spend that money and kick the can down the road for another year, right? If I'm only going to lose $600 per door in potential rent for the next 12 months, and I don't have to spend $3,000 or $5,000 today to upgrade that interior, focus on renewals and retention of your good clients. Give them a little goodie bag, which has, I don't know, some paper towels and sanitizer and a cute towel or something, and say, please stay. We appreciate you. Maybe we'll give you a new fan or something, and let them stay, because the cost of renewal is too high if you are running out of money and your deal is on a bridge loan. Review all the other contracts. How much is your landscaper charging? How much is your pool guy charging, right? All the different regular pest control, et cetera. Are they really providing superior service? Can you group a bunch of your properties together and ask for a slight discount? Is there a cheaper landscaper who might be a resident in your property who could do some of that work, but on a separate contract, of course, not related to the tenant, but keep it all separate? Have your property management company vet them, but is that a better option, right? So start cutting through. So imagine this is your household. This is your family. You're living paycheck to paycheck. So this entire operating expenses for your property, can you afford it based on the paycheck this property is generating, right? Because if you can't do that, you have to go line by line. What am I going to cut? I'm going to have to cut the gym membership. I'm going to have to cut a country club membership. I cannot apply whatever first class. Maybe I can't afford this nice car. Maybe I need to, return this car and buy a used car, right? So all those basic fundamentals of budget cutting, right, and living paycheck to paycheck. That's exactly what's happening with your property. If you are drowning, meaning you have a mortgage payment that your NOI is not able to cover, and you are trying to find the hidden pennies in the couch to keep yourself from drowning, right? That's the level you have to go to in detail. So line by line by line. Can I cut back on my admin expenses? Can I cut back on my contract services? Can we do more of these things in-house so I don't have to get a contractor every time we have this problem? What are the last, 30 days of work orders? What complaints are you getting? Let's look through those work orders and see if we're having the same issue happen over and over again in a building. Do we need to do something else? Can it be classified as a CapEx and you replace it? So dig deep, right? But the big picture items on a bridge loan are what? Look at your contract with your lender. What are you obligated to do and where's wiggle room? Look at your rents and focus more on renewals. All the other service providers and contracts you have. Can you get it done a little bit less by somebody else? Every $10 here and $100 there adds up quickly. And if what you're saving is $1,000, hey, that's $1,000 towards that mortgage payment, right? Because your lender is going to come after you if you don't meet that DSCR requirement. The second thing is, after you look at your financial statement, what are the expenses that can clearly be classified as one-time expenses? So you can move them below the line so that the NOI looks better, right? It's still affecting your net cash just the same. It's still money from your property, but positioning your NOI with the lender is very important, right? So that you.
I just want to pause it again there. And Jason, since he's our head underwriter, I want to ask you, like, what do you think Sandhya means when she says, where is the wiggle room in your loan? I think it has to do also with like how much reserves you need to have before your loan gets called, things like that. Yeah, you have any idea on what might be in those loan documents where you might call it wiggle room?
Well, first off, I wanted to correct you. I'm not the head underwriter. I'm the chief underwriter and fashionista.
Oh, right, fashionista, right.
I think some of the wiggle room that you can play with is when you get out a loan, a lot of times you have loan requirements on what CapEx you need to do. Some of it is required. Some of it is just suggested. So there's some wiggle room there. Some of it is like, yeah, here's your CapEx budget. We'll give you a loan for it. Come take out a draw whenever you need it, but they actually have no requirements. So some of them you have to do that. Part of that is because they know if you do this CapEx, then you can meet your revenues that you're projecting. based on it's like, all right, well, we renovate these units, we can charge more rent. And so the bank understands that and they're holding your feet to the fire with that. Um, some other wiggle room is every time you take a draw, sometimes that increases your debt service depending on the loan. Sometimes you might be paying debt service on a full LTC loan. Sometimes you might be paying debt service on the loan, and then as you take draws, then your debt service goes up and up and up as you take money out. So if you can do that or push that off, your debt service won't go up, and that depends on your loan as well. So I'm guessing that is what she was talking about.
Yeah, I believe it too, because after all, we got Julianne Peterson, who is a loan originator with Old Capital, joining in here saying true. So if there's anybody who'd know, it's definitely her. So that's good stuff. Thanks for that. Let's continue. This is the REI Rocks Review. We start every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern, and we review the content from the REI Rocks Summit, like the one that was just last weekend. Make sure you check out that stuff at theacademypresents.com. Let's continue.
You don't get into all these DSCR requirements and constraints where they take over and have a lockbox requirement, etc., and they only control your spending. You don't get to control it. That's a problem. You don't want to end up there. And then the other worst case scenario is where you just don't have money to pay a mortgage. You're declining financials, and you're gonna have to make a capital call, which I'm hearing about these days, right? That's not a good situation either to be in, especially if you are getting to the end of your bridge loan term. You're within.
So capital call is a little bit of technical terminology. It means you're already invested in the business, the property, or whatever, and then they have to give everybody a call and say, hey, you know how we said that we only need the amount of money that we told you about originally? Well, we need more because we're losing money.
Yeah, but I would also say too that like in the last 2-3 years, like if someone had to do a cap call, it was kind of like death to that operating team. And I'm not saying that it's okay now, but I think more people are doing it, so it's a little bit more accepted. It is not something we want to do at all. We want to do what it takes to keep us above board and make sure that we don't have to do a capital call, because at the end of the day, capital calls suck. And I'm not going to say that it means you got yourself in a bad position, but it could mean that maybe something happened along the way where maybe some numbers were missed, or maybe it wasn't stress tested quite to where it should have been. So you really want to make sure that you don't become known as the person that doesn't do enough. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm really glad that Jason is our underwriter, because I know that he's going to be working his tail off to make sure that we aren't missing something. I'm not going to say that he's going to catch everything, but we also have 2 other underwriters on the team that are all just as well educated as Jason. And so I feel pretty secure that with 3 sets of eyes checking things out, we're in a good position.
Mm-hmm. I love it. And you know, it's not like anybody has a crystal ball, but I want to go back to some of my marketing experience and watching what people do as the head of marketing, which is you're supposed to have a crystal ball, just like in underwriting, you know, saying like, oh, well, this is what's going on. And then you have to have a really good reason for why it didn't go according to plan. But with underwriting, what you need to do is you need to say, it's like, yes, we knew that it'd be about this much, but here are the things that didn't go according to plan. And that's why, you know, we're a bit off. I don't know if Jason has more to add or just want to continue.
We can continue.
All right, cool. Rock and roll. Let's do it.
And you have to request the lender to extend your bridge loan. You may not be willing to do that. The time that it takes you to refi a loan is typically at least 3 months. So don't wait till a month before your bridge loan is expiring to hope that lender will extend it for you. They may have all kinds of constraints. So what might make sense instead is actually an agency loan. Maybe it's less leverage, and then maybe a supplemental loan. But figure out what might work best for your deal, work through all the scenarios, and see how you can keep your head above water.
Well, I'm sitting here like I'm texting Jason all of it. I don't have a pen or pencil, and I'm like, dang it. So I'm just texting him to him, and he's like, what? And I'm like, with Sandy right now, and she is giving me these amazing ideas for trimming expenses, and I'm making sure y'all are getting them too.
Yeah, so we talked mostly about trimming expenses, looking at your existing contract, looking at your financial obligations to your lender, who is the boss. You want to make sure at all costs you complete anything that has to do with a lender required repair. They do an annual inspection, whatever they find there, you do it. You do it within the timeline they gave you. Same thing with anything to do with your city. Your city inspector is the boss, your city inspection, whatever they ask you to do. Anything that has to do with the safety of your residents, stairs and railings and anything else that affects your residents' comfort and safety, you've got to do it, right? There's no compromise on those. So always get those done first. Even if they say you have to do a parking lot repair, that's not a cheap thing. Here's what you do, right? Let's say you've got an expensive parking lot repair as an example too. It's going to cost you $10,000. Talk to that company, right? Talk to the company you're going to engage for it. Get multiple bids. Understand the type of repair they're going to do, whether that's the right way to do it, right? What's an overlay versus a sealant, right? Which one can you do in what circumstances? Then see if the company is well off. Can you work out a payment plan with them right from the beginning? Right? If I was buying an appliance because I just bought a new house and I can't afford it, I'm going to see what interest-free credit card loan I can get from Home Depot to make $50 a month instead of paying $2,000 for whatever the appliance is, right? So the same example. See if you can work out a payment plan with expensive contracts and repairs you've got to do for your property, because that again helps you sort of offset pay $20K tomorrow versus it's a few hundred a month for the next 6 months, right? So you can do that. You can still do that. I mean, we're all humans. Everybody understands the situation we're in. So see if that can get worked out. In terms of, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I was wondering, so like, you get electric contracts with your properties. Are those things that are worth trying to look at new electric contracts, or is this not a smart time to do that?
You should always have somebody who's shopping for you and renegotiate those. If you are all bills paid, you might want to consider whether or not it makes sense for your market to rub one of the utilities. Not all of them, that might be a sticker shock, but look, assess what is your utility bill per door by 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom, etc., and say what's the reasonable rub I could charge for it, and how much can I reduce my rent therefore because of it? Because some might be using a lot more than others, right? And so if each of them has to pay a certain amount, see how that works out. Like we do water conservation on property where we're all bills paid because we're paying for the water bill, so conserving that is going to help us. But you also need to have a leak detection system to really get the benefit of it. So look at energy contracts. There's different people who shop for that, and make sure you're shopping. Look at when your insurance is expiring. Okay. And about 2 months prior to that, start shopping around. You might work with one insurance broker, and we work with one insurance broker who's been amazing for us across maybe 4 of our properties, but in 2 other properties, he just wasn't competitive. His rate was way too high. So we ended up shopping another broker and got a better deal from this other broker on 2 of our properties. So don't rule out the possibility of reducing your insurance by having some kind of a tie to a master policy. Sometimes your property management company might have that. You just never know, but it doesn't hurt to look when you are searching for hidden pennies in the couch, literally. So don't rule it out.
So how do you said your property management company might have like a master policy? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So some large companies, I don't want to mention their names, they have a master policy by which they're able to get a discount because of the number of properties they manage. And so their rate was actually really good. So I know a friend of mine with a property in Houston, and he's paying far less per door for his insurance than the typical property you would be paying for. You're definitely paying in the thousands per door in Houston, and he's paying way less than that. And that's because of the master policy by his property management company. So you definitely want to network and ask around everybody. The benefit we have right now in this information age is there are so many Facebook groups. So all you have to put in there is I'm shopping for insurance. My insurance is coming up for renewal in 2 months. Please give me some connection. And you'd be surprised what a difference you could make in your monthly financials, because both taxes and insurance impact your NOI, for which you are responsible and you are accountable to the lender. Same thing with taxes, and taxes makes all the difference. So we not only protect our taxes, in one property we have to actually litigate it because the increase was so astronomical, right? And so
wow, there's a drop the mic moment right there. But with all of these different details, all of these different things that can show up in your expenses and you can do something about it, I think that the issue that people need to be concerned about is, how do you remember all of these expenses? I think the cure is having a network of people who are in this business and operating that you can bounce it off of. And I know that me personally, I rely on Marvelous Mondays to do that. So Angel, do you want to say a thing or two about how people can meet people like Sandhya and other operators, syndicators, and all that kind of stuff for free?
Absolutely. So we've been doing the Marvelous Mondays meetup for a while now. There's usually anywhere from 25 to 40 other investors there. And we're super chill. We're super laid back. Nobody's going to laugh about your questions. And all questions are welcome. So don't feel like you're not sitting at the right table, or that you shouldn't be there because you're not very intelligent, or maybe you don't have a lot of experience. But that's absolutely why you should be there, because you can learn from anybody and we can all learn from one another. And it is an amazing place to be. And we would love to have you join us.
All right, awesome. And I found a new layout and I like it a lot more. I like us being down here on the bottom more than the side. How about you? You know, because like
we're covering up the captions.
Are we covering up the captions? We
Looks
are
like
covering up the captions. So I think it's a fail. See, that's attention to detail, folks. That's the good stuff right there. That's why we get along so well. Awesome. And so you can meet more people who are involved in all of this kind of stuff. And we are watching Sandhya's presentation from the Spring 2023 Summit. Let's continue. Oh, we got more comments here. Amy Silvis, our great friend, is saying network in this space is so important. I have to admit, I didn't understand this at the beginning. Yeah, I definitely didn't either. Amy, she's a big player for the commercial real estate space when it comes to LinkedIn and finding people on there. So she and I spend all sorts of time. Oh, there you go. It's no, you're not covering up. The captions are covering you, says Julie.
Okay. And I wanted to say something too, that, all of this stuff and all of our summits and everything, they wouldn't be possible without an amazing group of sponsors that have helped us out in the past, whether that's Old Capital or Real Agent Helper or 506 Beanie or CSSI has sponsored us in the past. We've got Sponsor Cloud. We've got all of these amazing groups that are helping us to share this information at an affordable cost to you, because that teacher in me is always going to want to just share information, and that isn't possible because there are costs to these things. So it is because of our sponsors that we are able to give this information to you.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So you're trying to say that this space could be yours.
It could be.
That's funny. Or of course the other one that I love, which is to tell people to subscribe, but YouTube still, they're not cooperating with monetizing this yet. We need to get that happening. But let's see a little bit more of this presentation. It's still a little bit of a teaser, so we might not show all of it, but you're going to need to subscribe if you want to get access to all the summit recordings. This is just such a great way to learn this business from real players. So let's keep it to you.
So you want to make sure you have consultants like that by your side whose fee will more than justify it. Another interesting thing, we acquired a property that was by a creek, and we only thought 2 buildings were going to be in the floodplain, but we were told we have to insure 6 buildings for the floodplain. So we engaged a consultant company that has done this kind of work before, and they reduced it for us, not all the way down to 2, but they reduced it from like 6 to 3. So that still helped us in our coverage, right, in our insurance rate. So every little thing adds up quickly. We haven't talked as much about income sources, right? So one of the income sources, the obvious one, is if you are already in all bills paid, consider RUBS of just one utility. That's ratio utility billing service, right? There are companies like firms that can rather do that. So start ratio billing your tenants for their utilities, such as electric, where, a 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom, etc. And there's up to a certain percentage that you're allowed to rub back. So you need to know what that amount is based on your location, area, etc. So that's one way to increase your income. Another way is just to start doing surveys of your tenants to see if parking closure is something they would appreciate. So for example, on new leases, we offer free parking. So all our parking spots are striped and numbered from 1 to 200 or whatever. But then we also add the word reserved in there if that's going to be a reserved spot just for one resident, and towing is enforced. Towing companies, how they always love to come and tow people and make some money. So you can do a survey, and then on new leases, we offer them free 1 month of reserved parking as a benefit. And if they want to sign up for it, they have a couple of weeks to come back and sign up at this rate. If they wait till after 30 days, then it's a slightly higher rate. But even that $5 difference can help you, So don't mistake that. Another thing you can charge is trash and pest control kind of fees. If you've been charging $0 for it, then you can charge $5 for it. I mean, typically most tenants don't grumble a whole lot when it's a $5 increase, then when it's a $100 increase. So that's something you could consider because it adds up. When you have 200 doors and it's $5 a door, that's $1,000 in your pocket. The other big one is always personnel, right? So see what you can do about changing your personnel. You might need one lead maintenance person, and if you have multiple properties nearby, you can have one of them as your lead who can resolve more of the complicated issues, and then you might only need a porter for something else. So see what kind of issues generally happen. A lot of your maintenance folks are typically trained on most aspects of make ready to do all your interiors in-house. Don't outsource it. And then in terms of increasing revenue, what are some things that have worked at your competitors nearby? Definitely be comparison shopping all your competitors within a 1 mile radius on a regular basis. By regular, I mean quarterly basis, right? Are you checking the rent nearby? Can you up the rent by, let's say, $10 more for living downstairs instead of upstairs? Because it's a convenient factor, right? Every time you lug your groceries, it's up the stairs. So for living downstairs, can I charge 10 more? For living in a corner unit, which has that extra added balcony space, can I charge $25 more, right? Is there an opportunity for me to add a tiny fence yard? And that's going to allow you to let your little toddler or pet out for a little bit. And is it possible to charge a little more for that? Are there certain buildings or units with a nicer view than others? There are lake viewers, there are garden views, something like that. So those could be coded as premium units. And so even though they're all the same floor plans, maybe a premium view in building 2 might be charged, $20 more than the same size unit, but in building 3. So look for all of those different ways. Think of yourself as a luxury resort or like an airplane where certain seats cost more than others. Even though it's still a seat on the plane, you're still getting to the same destination. But why do I have to pay more for, this seat has slightly more legroom, or just because it's an aisle seat, I pay more, right? Versus the middle seat, well, the guy in the aisle is probably paying the same as the middle. well, I should be paying less at the middle and I should be paying more at that, right? So it's just little things like that. Look for those opportunities because that's so specific and individual to each property. And all that you're
So it occurred to me that one way that's really easy to remember all of these different line items, it's actually in the underwriting model itself. And I guess this whole thing is about whether or not people have any room in their underwriting. And our resident fashionista and chief underwriter, you can see examples of his fashion line right there, which is absolutely amazing here. I'm trying to figure out which one makes which layout makes this the most legible. But who wants to say a thing or two about Jason's underwriting services?
I can, because I'm super excited about it, and I think he's an amazing person and an amazing underwriter. But we've had very successful operations, and part of that is because Jason is very skilled as an underwriter. And yes, he's my husband, but totally unbiased, he's one of the top 10 underwriters in the United States, zero doubts. He is getting ready to start helping people learn how to underwrite. So he might be offering some underwriting coaching to a limited amount of people. But I'm going to let him roll that on out later. So I'll leave that one alone. But I just kind of want people to know that, I mean, he's ready to start helping you become a better underwriter. And whether that is running or looking at your numbers in your model, or taking your numbers and putting them in his model, or any array of services all the way up to being your underwriter, all of those things are options when it comes to what Jason can help you out with on your team.
That's absolutely awesome. And we're going to have to get some of these baby blue bow tie shirts here too. Yeah, that's really awesome. Just like Amy. Awesome. So let's continue. Let's do a little bit more of this before we call it a day.
property management has to do is code them differently. So we call some as V for down and U for up, or we call C for corner, etc., or V for view, right? So you just have to code them differently in the system. And just like airlines are constantly looking and analyzing the data on a daily, weekly basis, the same seat on the same flight today is going to be different than a week later because you waited too late. You're coming up now on peak leasing season. What are all the possible free places where you can advertise and cut back on your marketing expenses, right? So what are all the possible community activities you could do at your property that's kind of free? So we had for National Night Out, we had a fire truck and city inspector, police, neighborhood police come out and do a little, show and tell kind of thing. And kids were so excited. We passed out little things like candy, right? It's not expensive, but it drew a lot of attention to our property. Oh, we're the cool property. We have community events at our property, right? So just those little things can market your property differently. Is your signage attractive? Is your property tidy and well maintained? Are you processing work orders in an efficient manner? Are you respecting your residents and showing them that you care? So a lot of little things can go a long way in your retention and for your residents to start bringing in their cousins and family members and friends into your property. And so you have to spend less on marketing expenses. You could just give them some kind of a referral fee, if that makes sense, to offset some of the marketing costs you're paying. Facebook Marketplace is free. You just have to have an individual account, but you could all have that one common email login and password for that Facebook account and advertise your property there for free for whatever units you have available. So you don't have to pay a lot of other sources for marketing it. So look for ways by which you can do.
I just should add allegedly, because I'm not 100% sure what the terms of service of Facebook has to say about that. But yeah, it's you got to have help. You can't scale if you're just doing all this stuff by yourself. There's so many different platforms that running solo it's just futile.
But I say, I think one of the coolest things she said though at the beginning was, look at what's working for you in the marketing. Where are you getting your leads from? Are you paying for a website that nobody's even using? Because websites are not inexpensive. So does it make sense to keep pouring marketing dollars into places where leads aren't coming from? And is that a place where you can trim some expenses? So I really love a lot of what she says. I really do copy her. She's somebody I really look up to in this space.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's like, honestly, you have to compare this style of business with like a Coca-Cola. Okay, like it makes sense for Coca-Cola to be advertising 365 days a year, every single year. But if it's an apartment complex, as she said back earlier, it's like, if you've got like a mid 90s and up, occupancy, then what are you doing advertising? You're just throwing money away, especially if you don't have any places for people to stay. So there we go. And Julianne Peterson says that Zoom at 8 is going to be featuring Sandhya on Tuesday. So without using my fingers, that looks like the 4th of April, April 4th, by the looks of it. So
I still need my Zoom at 8 shirt.
Yeah, maybe she can drop by Wichita Falls and give it in person. That'd be cool.
Do the highest value or ROI. So look at a CapEx project. Is adding washers and dryers going to be expensive or costly? Are there existing connections already and you're just applying the machine? Then what is the payback period? Versus you just get a company to bring those machines and you just charge $10, $15 more than what it would actually cost, right? You might charge $40, but it may only cost you $25 to rent those machines. So then it's no upfront cost for you, but you're making $10, $15 per month on that lease. So that's another example. Have as much as possible to be coinless. So if you have a coin-operated laundry machine, try to go do some kind of an app-based pay range or something like that, so that you're not, worrying about who's taking all those coins, where do those go, why is my laundry collection less than what it needs to be, right? So those would be things that I would put money into. Another thing we do at a property is, we always do a camera system at all our properties, so we can keep a watch, especially if there's thefts and break-ins, etc. happening. They take care of it. But our property manager is very alert, so she will issue a lease violation if people set out trash or don't throw it into the dumpster, set mattresses out and things like that. Those are all lease violations. She'll charge a fee for them, maybe $25, maybe $50, depending on what they do. But if you start doing that all the time, people know, and your property will automatically look nicer. Like, take pride in this property. This is your home. This is where everybody drives here. So no matter what's going on in your life, there's 100 other families living here. Let's take pride in our apartment complex. This is our home. So those kind of things.
That's another amazing point there, because I think it's one of those things where if you're just coming into this, it's a guess in your head. It's like, okay, so do I apply those fees, $25 for a mattress or something like that, or should I be concerned about the perception that I'm nickel and diming the residents? And I think that she made a great case right there, where pride and the appearance of the building is more important, because if you have one mattress out there, that's however many other residents are going yeah, why is that lying there?
And I'm going to add to that too. So we did a survey here recently, and one of the things that came up was we should put doors on the front of where the dumpsters are so people can't see the rubbish. I'm like, no, you should quit putting your rubbish out by the dumpsters. That's not where it goes. That is a lease violation to put your rubbish by the dumpsters, because then we have to get a roll off, and those cost money too. But the roll offs have to go out there to haul off the rubbish. So no, we don't need doors to cover it up. We need you to do what you're supposed to do per your lease. And so, yes, it looks trashy, but if you what I've been told by some of our on-site staff is, it's kind of like if somebody's parking where they shouldn't be parking, you just got to tow one car. One car is all it takes, and people quit messing up. And I know that's cold and that sounds really crappy to find somebody for putting their bed frame. What do we have out? I think we had some mattresses out by the dumpsters last week, and it's like, what do we have to do to get you to stop doing this stuff? You agreed that you wouldn't do it, and yet here you are doing it. So we are putting cameras to look at it, because it's only going to take finding a couple of people before people decide, hey, maybe I should take this to the dump myself instead of putting it by the dumpsters and hoping that somebody gets rid of it.
And of course, it's not just for that. The cameras are going for safety. There's lots of reasons to have those cameras up there. And who knows, it might be a neighbor, a neighboring complex that's dumping in the dumpster. So it's all the more reason why you need that kind of surveillance.
Well, and this is something I think people don't think a lot too, is what if somebody has bed bugs and they put their stuff by the dumpster, and then somebody's like, oh, I could really use that mattress, and they go get the mattress. Well, now you got bed bugs in their unit too.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of actual true reasons to not let this stuff happen. It's not just because we want to nickel and dime you out of every last cent of disposable income you have. It's to keep things safe from a health and safety standpoint as well.
I love it. And that's such a great reason to watch the REI Rocks review every Friday at 11. We're about to wrap it up. We're reviewing Sandhya's presentation here on where to get expenses down in your commercial properties. So let's keep going.
Also, lease violations issued on a regular basis also builds a case for why you may want to evict a tenant, right? If they're constantly causing all this disturbance at your property, you have other residents complaining about this one resident, etc. You're building a case. So definitely having lease violations on record and issuing fines for violating these kind of agreements is going to help you. That's why we spend the money up front on camera systems. What do you think?
No, that's Okay, so the trash thing is so frustrating to me because the rubbish is intense. It can really build up, and if it doesn't fit in the dumpster, they're not going to take it. And so it keeps getting dumped and the rubbish stays there, and it's like, what the heck? So to be able to, like, we've got camera systems, but to really enforce who's putting stuff out there, and especially if somebody has a bug problem and they throw their rubbish and somebody else sees it and they dumpster dive it, now you've got double the problem. So we try to stay on top of it, but I don't know that they're finding them. So that's definitely something. And I like the idea of doing that small charge for the trash.
Yeah, trash and pest control, you could say this is becoming a bigger and bigger problem, guys. So we're going to have to start implementing this from whatever time period. On all the renewals that come up, tell them, hey, we are glad to have you as a resident. This is going to remain the same. However, we're having to charge this fee, okay? And our property manager at our property, what she does is she looks up the camera footage, she prints it out, it clearly shows who's doing it, and she just issues that with a violation. So there's no arguments. Yeah, I know it's you. You stepped out of P2. I saw you take that down, and you just left it there. You should have, put it where it belongs. And so there is no arguing that charge. And so because they know she's going to enforce it, it starts that sense of responsibility. I can't just throw trash. Don't litter our property. I mean, take pride in our property. And then it happens. So you can.
Hey, I'm wondering though, and it just occurred to me that if people are paying like a $5 trash fee, does that make them think they have the right to then dump the trash? It's like, well, I'm paying $5. I can dump it wherever I want now.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's definitely a tough one. It's definitely a tough one. You got to find that balance. And I think it's just like when you're talking to investors, the answer is disclose, 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 disclose. Whatever is going on, just make sure that they get it. And then that way it's not a secret. But we're coming up to the end of this presentation. I try to pretend that I don't like the scarcity of teasing people, ending a little bit early, but the truth is that I enjoyed it immensely, just because that gives you more reason to actually sign up and get the access. We still have a couple more days of free access for the 2023 if people sign up at theacademypresents.com, but really it's the subscription. But let's do the doggy bag then on this presentation. So who wants to start off with some takeaways? There's just so much.
I know. Okay, I'll start. Because the whole reason why Sandy and I had this conversation is because we started out talking like, what are you dealing with right now? And I was like, oh my God, expenses. Getting the NOI up. I don't know what to do. We've tried so many things. We're trying all these things, but it's like nothing is happening quickly, which it isn't going to happen anyway. But when she started rattling off ideas, I was like, holy moly. Because even just $5 more for a downstairs unit. When I was in college, I hated the downstairs unit because I could always hear the people above me. But her counter to that was, when you're downstairs, you don't have to haul your groceries upstairs every time you go buy groceries. You don't have to haul furniture up flights of stairs when you buy something new. There is a definite benefit to being downstairs. Now, our corner units aren't any larger than any other unit, but for her, if a corner unit's a little bit bigger, maybe it has an extra window, you get more sunlight. Charge a little bit extra for that. People enjoy that. And so if it's an amenity that is unlike other units, then it should carry with it a different price. And so I think that just some of the things that she talks about, like that, behemoth of a printer in the leasing office, if you're not using it and you can get by with a $250 all-in-one, by all means, go buy the $250 all-in-one and stop that $150 a month rental fee on that super nice copier that who's really using it. What benefit are you truly getting out of it? So it's the ideas that she has and the things to look at, where are your leads coming from, all of those things. It's so much more than what you think it's going to be. There's so many pieces of it. It's just wow. But that was my biggest takeaway, because that was something that landed home for me, because it's something I needed to hear.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And my favorite part about that, and Jason, I'm sure you can chime in and expand on it a bit, is that if you understand that a lot of people invest for cash on cash, then when you realize how the math actually works, an extra $5 doesn't seem like much. And of course, people will say, it's like, oh, well, if you got 100 units, then 5 times 100, that's more.
Well, that's what is that, 6,000 a year?
So that's yeah, exactly. It's not chump change, but at the same time, it's like if somebody has the perception of, oh, well, you control a commercial real estate building that's potentially worth millions of dollars, why do you care about this extra $5 from people who, like aren't really rolling in it. And the secret is like just how cap rates work based on NOI. So the thing is, like, it may be $5, but if it's at like a 5 cap, for example, just to use a more or less round number, it's worth way more than that little bit there. Jason, is that something you want to talk about, or you just want to give your takeaways and doggy bag?
I'll just give my takeaways in doggy bag. I think most people understand how NOI and cap rate works, and if you don't, then you can sign up and I can go over some underwriting with you, and we can work it out offline. But I think one of my biggest takeaways is I'm gonna get my property manager to watch this. I think having a fire truck out at the property and getting the kids engaged is wicked awesome.
Yeah.
Or have a police go out there, do a dog demo like they used to do when we were in elementary school. They can do that at a complex, and they enjoy it, and the kids
Mhm.
would enjoy it. And I think it adds some community to the property. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
agree.
I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. Well, that's our time for today. So it's been great giving you this little preview of what's inside the REI Rocks VIP subscription area. I had a great time. Sandia, seriously one of the most valuable parts of our community. It's every single time she opens her mouth, it's like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. This is just absolutely brilliant.
Absolutely.
But there you go. So make sure that you come by every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern, and you can learn more about commercial real estate syndication. Some of it is more about mindset, which is a vital part of real estate investment because you got to stick with it for long periods of time. But that's all I got for today. Anything else before we give everybody else the rest of their Friday?
I think that's it.
appreciate everyone coming out and watching us. So.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, to our sponsors like Sponsor Cloud, I can't emphasize enough how important it is because that's how we keep our lights on. This stuff does not pay for itself, but we're getting a whole lot closer with the help of these wonderful sponsors. So,
Absolutely.
awesome. So, see you next time, everybody.